Welcome back now. We're, of course, live here at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. My name is Arabile Kumete, here with your market news for now. Of course, your headlines will follow at 2 p.m., but we'll have a little bit of that a little bit later. For now, though, let's unpack this market picture. China, again, on a public holiday, so not much movement from the Asian market on that front, but the Nikkei, of course, out in Japan, and the Hang Seng as well out in Hong Kong did manage to move out a little bit, though. There was a sense of positivity, but it ended up being a mixed day of trading, unfortunately. The Hang Seng going down nearly 1%, while the Nikkei was up a similar mark, though 1.1% to the good there, out in black territory on that front, so a bit of a good movement on there. A few of the worries do stem from the spike in coronavirus cases out in the United States. Does that mean we will see another cut in economic activity is the big question that markets are holding on to right now. And unfortunately, that has meant that we're seeing a bit of a mixed picture out in that front. But it wasn't enough, however, to deter the market out in Europe, as we're seeing that go up more than 1% across most of the board here. In fact, the FTSE 100 and the CAC 40 are edging towards 2% gains in this afternoon trade, with the DAX out in Germany 1.2% to the good. So positivity then as well on the JSE All Share as that continues to enjoy some positive movement, with the gold indices and the resources really doing their thing. They're more than 1% gained across that board as well, with the industrials going up 0.75%. Unfortunately, the financials not doing too well, with the banking stock seeing the bulk of those losses on that front. Over to your commodities board then, Brent crude managing to take up almost 1% of gains there. It does seem that the issue around the opening up of many economies across the world does mean that supply will begin to be enough for the demand that keeps on pulling through in most of these economies. So $41.43 a barrel there for Brent crude. Platinum just hanging on to that $800 a fine ounce mark, so not much in the way of demand there, while gold is sitting ever so slightly higher, $1,764 a fine ounce at present. Over to your currencies, it's been a much better stance then, following through even from that supplementary budget on Wednesday, where we saw weakness in the currency, and now we've improved ever so slightly to 17 Rand and 23 cents against the US dollar, 0.5% better off on that front. The euro then is at 19 Rand 33, 21.35 as well then for a British pound. Let's unpack exactly what the sentiments have been. The market getting some sort of improvement then as well. Warwick Lucas from Galileo Capital joins us as well via Skype. Warwick, always good to chat to you. Your sentiments, though, following Wednesday, we didn't get to chat right after that. Did you think the supplementary budget was good enough? Did it give you an idea of where government is going and how they can reduce the debt picture?
Good afternoon, Arabile. Look, I think the focus on that budget was on really what does the macro position look like, and in terms of surprises, there weren't actually an awful lot. I think that guidance coming out of Treasury has been reasonably okay, plus I think fairly full discussions generally in the markets. I mean, in terms of the revenue shortfall, probably a bit bigger than expected, and on the other hand, the expenditure overrun a bit smaller than expected. I think there were some complaints that it was light on details around state-owned enterprises, but I think really there was a most important key message there, really, and it can be summed up in 2 words, basically: South Africa, wake up. I mean, we obviously have got an approach run in on a debt trap issue here if we continue the way we are, and some things have got to give. It certainly wasn't a normal budget, in that budgets are normally a long consultative process. I mean, you literally see the start of the budget consultation process probably kick off in about April the preceding year. So I mean, obviously there's not been a lot of consultation that's gone into this budget. This is really a stopgap measure because of extraordinary times and very fluid times, and I think it should be seen in that light, and players not get too worked up about the apparent lack of detail.
So you reckon we were perhaps expecting a little too much from Finance Minister Tito Mboweni there?
I think he was speaking more in terms of principles. What are the forces that are in play, and I think that he has described that pretty well to the public and to market participants. They really can't say that they don't know now. What are the pressures weighing in on him? I mean, a funding shortfall of 307 billion rand. Well, that's a bit of a load on one's shoulders, you could say.
All right. Well, let's take a look at some company news then. We did see the likes of Sun International come into play with, unfortunately, having to find investors in different parts of its business. Debt is overflowing across many companies, and of course, tourism is one of those factors as well. Can Sun International stay alive?
Okay, so in terms of general business principles, I mean, casinos can be quite big cash generators. I mean, typically they own a large and very specific purpose type of property, and that is probably their major expense. And once that's in place, they then obviously have to and keep it ticking over, and you wind up with a situation that usually casinos are quite big cash generators. However, we have the situation with Sun International. The pressures on them now are that, for example, the tourism casinos would be affected by provincial border controls. You also have pressures such as a lack of smoking rooms and legislation against the consumption of alcohol on premises. So obviously it's quite a bit of pressure on them. And I think perhaps the one comfort they might have is that the unlisted competitors may be even in an even tougher spot. Yes, the debt is a bit high. I think, however, that they're in a position where the banks really do need to be collaborative with them. I don't think it's in the bankers' interest to do any kind of foreclosure activity, rather nurse this one along until we see our way clear of the full impact of COVID and some kind of return to normality. So, yes, it probably can survive. I think that the rights issue planned of 1.2 billion, whether that'll be enough, remains to be seen. And of course, they've got a punch up with some of their shareholders in South America to resolve as well. So lots of drama in this one for some time to come, it would seem.
Yeah, we'll only see sort of that recovery post-COVID-19, and it may even be a long while after COVID-19, of course, because tourism numbers really need to begin to pick up again and go to pre-COVID-19 levels. All right. Well, we saw the local currency then strengthen as well. At some point, it was even at 17 Rand and 10 cents against the US dollar. What is it that is actually helping pick the Rand up again following that supplementary budget which actually hurt the local currency on Wednesday?
Okay, so I think it's ultimately a little bit of certainty there, in that the players now know what is happening there in terms of the size of the hole in budget, the deficit, and the prospects in terms of GDP, inflation, and so on. I think it's rather clarity of picture. I mean, it's not actually a particularly positive or constructive environment for the Rand. So to my eyes, this really looks more like a relief and an improvement in certainty rather than some fabulous fundamentals that have come in and supported the Rand. At this stage, I can't be either bearish or bullish on the Rand. I think it's pretty much where it is, but I would have thought that perhaps some weakness may find its way in eventually.
Yeah. All right. Warwick, thank you so much for that fair assessment of where things lie, particularly with that currency, and of course after the supplementary budget which we got from the finance minister then as well on Wednesday. Warwick Lucas is from Galileo Capital there. Of course, also comments coming through from Moody's ratings agency saying that they don't believe that we'll be able to stabilize the sentiment then as well. And really interesting to see that they don't believe the finance minister, and saying that trajectory that South Africa has had for quite some time isn't one that makes them believe that we can bring expenditure under control and increase revenue and therefore create fiscal consolidation. We've struggled with that for quite some time, so it certainly does tell you that we won't be able to get it right. All right.